Sailaja Joshi, Amy Maranville, and Payal Doshi. Welcome to Middle Grade Ninja. I'm thrilled to have all three of you here this evening.
Thrilled to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And I was just telling you before we get started, the two things that esteemed audience knows I never do. I never try to summarize someone else's biography because I'll make a mess of it. And I try never to summarize someone else's book because then those are fighting words. If I get your book wrong, we're really in trouble. So I'm going to ask each of you to give us kind of an overview of yourself. And then we'll start talking about this book and the press and all kinds of wonderful stuff. But Sailaja Joshi, I will ask you to start. If you would give us an overview of your background.
Yeah, so my name is Sailaja Joshi, and I am the CEO and founder of Mango and Marigold Press. We are an award-winning independent press that shares the sweet and savory stories of the South Asian experience. Our mission is to decolonize children's lit and to bridge the accessibility gap in children's literature, one story at a time.
And then, Amy, I'll ask you to give an overview of your background.
Sure. I'm Amy Maranville. Hello, everybody. I am the CEO and founder of a small writing and editing company called Kraken Communications. I'm a big fan of children's literature, always have been, and I actually have a master's degree in children's lit. So when Sailaja became interested in starting her own company, she and I sat down and had a coffee and talked about what it would entail. And then I said, okay, well, go and make books and good luck. And she came back and asked me to write some of the first books for Mango and Marigold. So I started off writing some books, and then I sort of transitioned into the senior editor role. And so I am the main editor for most of the Mango and Marigold books at this point.
And last but certainly not least, not on this show, let's talk to the author, Payal Doshi. Please give us an overview of your background.
Hi, everyone. I'm Payal Doshi, and my debut novel, Rhea and the Blood of the Nectar, is out May 2021. I write middle grade fantasy books. I have a master's degree in creative writing from the New School in New York. I came into writing totally by accident. I was always a voracious reader, but never thought about writing seriously as a profession. But I soon came to realize that there just isn't any literature out there, especially in children's literature, that has any focus on Indian kids or South Asian kids, especially as protagonists of the story. And I wanted to change that. And I also wanted to do it in a fun way, showing that Indian kids also have a lot of fun and can be the heroes of their own stories. And so I came about to writing Rhea and the Blood of the Nectar. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I have a wonderful husband, and I live in Minneapolis.
I love it.
And Payal, just follow-up question, when did it occur to you that you should be writing? What did you start off with as your passion, and when did you transition to I must be a writer?
Do you want the long version?
How about the medium?
Yeah, the medium length one.
So, I didn't have a passion, to be really honest. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those kids, who wrote stories as an 8-year-old or a 5-year-old. I didn't do any of that. I studied business management. I have a master's in business management. I was in the UK when I was doing my master's in business management, and it was catered towards creative industries. And as an internship, I interned at Pan Macmillan Publishers in London. And that's when the first light bulb sort of went off in my head, thinking, hey, wait, I can make reading a profession? Like, wait, what? And that's when I was so intrigued by the whole publishing world that I knew when I came back to India. I should have mentioned in my bio that I am Indian, and I am was raised in Mumbai, and I moved to the US about 8 years ago. So anyway, back then I moved back home to Mumbai, and the book publishing industry is in Delhi, and I didn't want to move again, so I joined the magazine publishing industry. I worked at Vogue and other lifestyle magazines. And that's where I sort of started writing articles and, sort of tickling my writing bug, so to speak. And it was in that time that I was equal parts frustrated with my job. I absolutely came to a point to detest writing articles that I was asked to write about, or that was based on a magazine's theme, or some such sort of criteria. And I decided to write what I wanted to write. And I just opened up my computer one day. I remember it was a Sunday morning, and I just wrote whatever came to mind. And what came to mind was literally, it still exists in the actual book today, obviously far more refined and polished. But I wrote the story about this feisty little girl called Ria in Darjeeling, India. And when I wrote that, I wrote 2 paragraphs, and I had never felt more happy in my life and fulfilled, really. So I went back and I drafted out the whole plot, which still is the exact same plot, several changes. There's a deeper story to this, which I can expand on later, but essentially, I wrote out this plot and I started writing it, and I wrote about 70,000 words in, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to need a little more help. And so I applied to the US for an MFA in creative writing. And ever since then, I never looked back. I just went on and on. It took a long time to finish this book because a lot of life happened along the way. But that's when I realized, that was that moment when I wrote those 2 paragraphs, like sitting on my dining table in my living room, just writing what I wanted to write.
You must not do anything halfway. I'm fascinated. You need a little help. That to me is, let's call a neighbor, let's get a relative to read this over. Nope, straight to getting an MFA the whole way.
I know. She's like, I wrote 70,000 words, and then I needed a little bit of help, so I got an MFA from the new school.
Well, thank you. It seems cool, but at the time I was just like, what am I doing? I think it's very important to also note that I wrote those characters, like in when I wrote the 2 paragraphs, as white characters. They were called Rose Bennett, and the brother was Bryant Bennett, and the parents were John and Hyacinth Bennett. And they had a housekeeper named Suki, I remember. And I didn't think twice about it. I wrote 70,000 words with white characters. And then before I decided to get my MFA, I applied to a writing workshop in one of the universities in Bombay. And I was so excited to get my chapters workshopped. And when it came to my turn, I remember the teacher, she almost had a look of disgust on her face. And she was just like, why are they white? Why aren't you writing about Indian kids? And I kid you not, I had not thought about that at all, even once. And I was so shocked by the fact that she wasn't like, this is nice or great or, good job. And that she had just pinpointed this one aspect that none of my characters were white, were Indian. And I was writing about nothing that I had experienced in my life. That it really shook me. And I went back, and I was not the only one in this workshop that had the same criticism. There were many of us who had written stories with white characters in them. And I went back and I thought about it, and then it really struck me that I hadn't realized that everything that I had consumed as a child, and I love reading, and I love the books that I read, like there is no denying that, but it had whitewashed me into thinking that that's the type of stuff, or that's the type of content that I should be writing when telling my stories. And it really shook me that I hadn't thought about that. Like, it wasn't a conscious choice to write white characters. It's not that you shouldn't if you are, if you're not white, but that I hadn't even thought about it. And I think that was the time it became a mission. Like, my passion became a mission to write stories that celebrate Indian culture and South Asian culture and heritage in a way that doesn't victimize us, which oftentimes happens. And that isn't to say that that's good or bad. This is just another facet that I wanted to bring out and put out into the world, that Indian kids have wonderful lives as well, full lives as well, and go through the same things that kids all over the world go through. It's very universal, and that they should also be heroes. They should also be the main characters of a story, and people will see that it doesn't matter that they are Indian or not, that a kid will relate to a kid. So that's the story.